the seed in our homeland, boys. Let it grow where all can see. Feed it with our devotion, boys. Call it the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Save it from the storm, boys. Water down its roots with tea. And the sun will always shine on the old Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. March along with the piper, boys. We were born forever free. Let's go pay the piper, boys, beneath the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking, boys. Always pay the tyrant's fee. Never give up the struggle, boys. Fight for the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys. Stand against all tyranny. Hang the lance of freedom, boys, high on the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It will grow as we grow, boys. It will be as strong as we. We must cling to our faith, boys, faith in the Liberty Tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in a 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay, they'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun. Permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent. Although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate. And your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt. Put men of God in jail. Harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn. And your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you will fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave? God bless you, and God bless this republic.
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines in occupied territories, southwest, east, northeast, and central. Ladies and gentlemen, you were listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube live stream, and we are on AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet, Hallmark, and Golden Spike technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in the lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, CONUS, the outlying two states, territories, and the clock. It is 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Thursday, the other T-Day. It is the 3rd of September. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. 2020 Old Earth calendar. 2020, year of conflict, year of betrayal, dance of swords, the battle for the Republic. Congratulations, you're part of history, and you're going to be part of the competition. I guess you could drop to the side and let them put a bullet in your head. There's lots of ditches out there, but on the other hand, I think we'll fight for our lives and do what needs to be done. First of all, usual, all kinds of exciting stuff going on. A little hiccup in Portland. They were kind of lamenting about not protesting, but they were protesting. In other words, a rioting was going on. as usual, but it was a lesser conflict, and apparently they just got in what were basically putty pool matches back and forth, like kangaroo fights. Stop you, savage. And then the kangaroos, they're looking at each other, and their heads turn away, and they kind of hit, and they don't hit. It's like watching a couple of pooftas fight behind the wire, the bug type. We call the bug types. Predators are a different story. But bugs, well, listen, this is what they sound like, and they all have bug names, Butterfly and Katydid, and I'm serious, this is true. But on the other hand, the predators, they're just wicked evil, and they're trying to do evil, wicked things to you that, well, you got to put them down for. And of course, the system knows who the P's are, too. They have a P on their file, Predator. Anyway, that means they're pooftas, but aggressive kind that would, be violent, and you have to be very violent on them and be very careful because they probably got a disease. That's the other problem. Anyway, it is a beautiful Thursday. It looks like it wants to rain. We got cloud cover like it could rain, but it's just not reliable for raining. So, but there's definitely more moisture in the air a little this afternoon than there was this morning. It has been a perfect day otherwise for working outside. Get your hind end in motion and get out there and get done what you can. Anyway, breeze, and get a little breezier, by the way, while I'm talking. The leaves and the trees are moving a little faster here. So, yeah, we might have a front moving in. And for everybody out there, cold weather gear and wet weather gear, you might want to start rounding it up. I just made a deal last weekend.
It's rainy and windy up this way.
On the top of the state of Michigan, that's Tom, and that's up towards, to let everybody know, it's nice that it's raining up this way, but where is up this way, Tom?
I'm up by Traverse City and Cadillac.
In fact, Cadillac is just around the corner, not too far away. I think Traverse is farther away, isn't it?
I think it's a couple miles further than what Cadillac is. I don't really.
But not much. You're like about halfway. You're at the halfway mark, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And Cadillac, of course, Big Lakes, guys, for you that haven't been to Michigan, nice area. A lot of the resort stuff that used to be around the lake had died off with the little depression that was created by the Clintonistas, but especially when they had the second big wave. Now we got the third one right now with the economy. But the second big wave was with the foreclosure cycle and, the big land bubble and all that nonsense. A lot of the money that used to travel around just wasn't there. Now it's even worse. So there's some really nice places to go, and not as busy as they used to be, which means pretty decent places to drop a boat. And there's plenty of fish. So just a little heads up all over Michigan.
Up this way is known as the cherry capital of the world, though. We got a lot of cherries up this way.
Yep, west side of the state is the pit fruit side of the state, where you get all the water and wash off of the Great Lakes, off of Lake Michigan, coming in from the west to the east. And that's why, if you look at the numbers, you'll see that from up towards Traverse City all the way down to Grand Rapids, and of course 3-4 counties in, that's all of our fruit district right there, big fruit district, cherries, apricots, peaches, apples, you name it. If it's on a tree, pit fruits are, of course, like the plums, the apricots, and the peaches. But the rest of the fruit, pears, apples, mega production on that side of the state, and naturally so. Very, very, very useful. And again, that's one of the...
And they had a good supply of cherries this year, so there are a lot of cherries up here.
So prices should be right this year, too, a little better. We'll see what happens, of course. Again, they're trying to make up for lost time because everybody else has got problems in other areas with their money, so we'll see how that develops. Anyway, real quick here, on that note, before I go any farther, talking about water, talking about fishing and Michigan, guys, there are some really great buys on some attack boats, fishing boats, and other useful pieces of equipment. If you look around, Facebook Marketplace is the best example. You can go over there, and there is a bunch of stuff. Here in Michigan, that we could buy a small fleet for little or nothing right now. And, in fact, I already made touch base up 2. I think we got 1 or 2 more. yeah, a whole bunch of other stuff, as a matter of fact. Coming up here, we got 3 of the boats. I think we didn't move the 4th one, but we paid either $100 with a trailer, a boat, and most of them have motors. Interestingly enough, more than half of them had 90-horse motors. They had a couple. One has an 80, all Johnsons and Evinrudes, all easy for parts, and typical for what the military uses for their small, fast attack boats. No Zodiacs or anything like that, but the tri-hulls especially, $250, trailer, boat motor, there's that niche. It's the matrix thing, hey guys. It happens every once in a while. You never know what you're going to run into, so pay attention. Another thing here real quick. Well, example, I'm looking at one right now. 14-foot Viking fiberglass boat, 5.5-horse Johnson motor with trailer, $280. The motor is worth the $280. In fact, I got to make sure I mark that. I would just mention that to you people, and I want to try and get there first. It's another boat that goes into the combat group. We need to have the stuff kind of laying around for obvious reasons, but again, take the time, go through Facebook Marketplace. You never know what you're going to run into, and everything, sky's the limit, guys. So just a little heads up. As a matter of fact, this last weekend, one of the other things I did, acquire more tools. I had not finished sorting out the tools that I do have, that I've picked up, because we've been getting inventory after inventory, but really that can only take a short period of time, but I want to do it right. I mean, what I do is typically go over each tool, make sure that they're all properly cleaned, lubricated, and then I sort by manufacturer, like Craftsman, you name it. We got a little bit of everything there, as a matter of fact. So, but also SK sockets especially. I ended up with a massive amount of really interesting stuff here in terms of tool and die work for the weekend. So the more expensive stuff went right into the vaults, so to speak. Some of the taps and some of the tooling, $600 to $800 a unit, picked up everything for $20. And again, as nobody had an interest, they were going to, looking at, we have to scrap this stuff. It's like, oh, no, you won't. Don't worry about that. And everything got picked up, and everything now is safe and not going to the recycle bin. Okay, that's really bad. We don't want that to happen. So for all of you out there, another thing, bunch of material. In fact, up there, well, not as close to you, Tom, but Eaton Rapids, a couple of storage units full of ACU equipment, large Alice, large Mollies, a little bit of everything, it looks like. In fact, if I can get up there, I'm going to get up there, but we'll see. We'll find out about the window. We're heading to the weekend. This is where you're going to run into the goodies. Also, real quick, pay attention with a lot of this military stuff. I've mentioned this before. I've got one Kevlar blanket out of the deal here in the last 3 days. And the person didn't know what it was. It looked like it was supposed to be like a throwdown, rug for like a vehicle or something. And it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of what it is. So for about $3, again, it worked just fine for what we're going to do with it. We're going to exactly what I've described on the air. It's going to become a back panel on a pickup truck. On the inside, nobody will have a clue it's there. It looks like it actually does make for a good rubber baby buggy bumper thing for, keeping the back wall from getting bounced on. Not that much is there, but the way I'm going to hang it, because it already has eyelets, the whole 9 yards, is it'll be folded in half, and then when the time comes, if it looks like things get a little more serious, you the other half of the way and connect it to the upper eyelets over top of the window, and the whole back of the truck is paneled. Now, that's just a bunker buffer. That's all that is. Remember, guys, nothing's going to be 100% restopping anything. I don't care what Kevlar or what steel you're wearing. And again, you can't cover your whole body with armor. You just can't. But you can reduce the odds of being hit dramatically. You can improve your condition dramatically. And it's not that hard to do. Any military gear you run into, grab it. In fact, this one site, I'm looking at canteen cups. Looks like there's a number of other military totes. And crutches. What a surprise, probably, again. Wow, crutches and military gear. Combination. Veteran era thing. Yeah, That's how it works. So for all of you, again, pay attention. Go to Facebook Marketplace. Go through what they have. Interestingly enough, somebody just said, yeah, Mark, look what I found. And it's the same thing. A whole pile of stuff. ACU, later gear, but not brand new. And, yeah, a whole pile of useful tools that are you're in need of. So if you're going to combat equip, this stuff that's cached around all over the place and then left behind, pick it up. Take advantage of it. I see 3 Tomahawks in this one package, which is why I want to go there, if nothing else. Somebody was into real Tomahawks, too. Okay, so that's what you're looking for. That's the kind of stuff that you want to find and take advantage of. Anyway, other stuff coming up. Well, number one, I want to say hi to our friends, the advance party for the 24th Regimental Combat Team Colonial Marines are up at Camp Emmerich this weekend, the expanded camp. And I think the guys are, well, I'm going to probably stop and see them because I don't think they're going to be able to pull off and, come over to see me because we have an extended orienteering and night vision orienteering course going on from Friday to Saturday. Friday night, you got to wait till it gets dark, and Saturday night, you got to wait till it gets dark. As you know, we're not going to worry about rain. Rain is not an issue. Snow is not an issue. We fight in all of that, and we train under those conditions. However, this gets back to something I mentioned at the very beginning of the hour I wanted to touch on, is rain gear and cold weather gear. Now, guys, it's dropping down. It's warm during the day. In fact, we got a little hot for a little bit, and then it backed off, and it's dropping down into the upper 60s right now, or middle 60s at night, and it could drop faster and farther if you're closer to the lakes. This is why, if you're going to set up your combat gear, if you're going to set up your Minuteman gear right now, at least put a woolly pulley, or here's what's lighter and cheaper and easier, roll up a Holofill field jacket liner. Grab one of the German ones, the Dutch ones, the American ones. Go over to Sportsman's Guide. Look to see what they have in the way of markdown stuff for $2 or $3 or $4 an item. I tell you what you really can find a lot of, because not as many people use them, is the field pant liner in the newer, later end of the Cold War, which were the Holofill. There's German, there's Dutch, Italian, whatever. They're cheap because nobody thinks about them. And if you're stuck in the field and all of a sudden you're in a temperature drop, or you're stuck, I'm not going to spend all that much time outside. Then it gets dark, and then you end up with vehicle problems. Somebody gets lost. You have to go help someone. You're stuck having to stay in the field. If you're a Minuteman and you're deployed, you're not carrying all your cold weather gear, but you are going to see a drop that's so significant that we can see thermal casualties. Hypothermia is a reality, okay? So, putting a couple of these light items, you can't say they're too heavy. You're not burdening yourself with tons of extra gear, but a pair of field pant liners, roll them up, rubber band them, and put them in the backpack. And a field jacket liner, roll it up, put it in the backpack. Remember, if you're wearing a battle blouse of any kind, typically a field blouse, that field jacket liner will fit perfectly underneath. And a lot of the guys, myself included, with a percentage of my uniforms, the ones that are for the fall, my fall camouflage and winter camo, which really are one and the same, I sew the buttons for the field jacket liner right into the blouse. Why not? I don't need quite a second layer of clothing all the time, but it's going to get just cold enough that, especially at night, that rather than be uncomfortable, all I have to do is pull out my little light-duty field jacket liner, put it inside of my 50-50 cotton polyester blend blouse, whatever pattern. It can be the new Nehru collar, or it can be the older style. It doesn't make any difference. The PD standard BDU works just fine. And now all of a sudden you're not so uncomfortable. You're not going to be losing that body temperature at 2 and 3 in the morning, especially if you are in a siege or re-support situation or relief operation where you're coming in to support somebody under siege. Very important, guys, that we're squared away and ready to deal with all the problems, because we have to have staying power. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that, because you should throw it out the window. Okay, rule number one, too many of the standoffs have been involved for 24, 48 hours in standoffs, 3 days, 4 days, where we've stayed mobilized and we've stayed in place. to help out the people so that they don't ride up on them later, because they usually expect you to all just go, oh, well, they're gone, I can leave, and then they come back. That's the standard. That's the norm. We expect that. And they always get frustrated when you actually are ready for that. So when we deploy heavy, but in this case, right now you can take and shave off some of your cold weather gear by at least having a liner. A woolly pulley makes a big difference. That's the old wool sweaters. Wool is fantastic for the amount of weight you're carrying. They're phenomenal because even if you get a little damp or wet, you have the ability to very quickly retain body heat, because wool retains body heat even when wet. Warm, dries from the inside out. It's the way it works for the sheeps, and it works for you the same way. Okay, so those are a good choice. Finding a real woolly pulley now is a little tougher than it used to be, but they are out there. And actually, some are cheap. It depends on where you look. Right now, the Italian ones and the French ones are out there on the market, and you might find one for $6 to $8. That's in excellent condition and actually in a good size, because there are some big sizes out there. So remember, a little bigger rather than a little smaller if you can, because that way if you want to put other layers on, you're not bunched up and snugged up like you're, in a corset. You don't want that. You want to be able to breathe a little bit. You want to be able to ventilate when you need to. Always remember that. And you got to be able to move around. The first purpose is to be there is to fight. Now, we're trying to work all the rest of our engineered technology around that idea to make it as comfortable and to make us as versatile as possible in the field. So prior proper planning prevents piss poor performance. If you do have thermal casualty issues, this is where, again, emergency kits, including blankets, thermal blankets, which are, of course, layer upon layer. And don't forget that you need to have a plan for being able to heat water and get warm fluids into the casualty as quickly as possible. Thermal from the, warm from the inside, warm from the outside. What we're trying to do is prevent you going into the second and third tiers, third tier being dead, with regard to hypothermia. We can prevent that. The sooner you can start reacting to a casualty in the field, just like bleeding or anything else, or airway issues. If you don't get the airway cleared, obviously they're dead in 3 minutes, maybe 5. Maybe they got a little extra oxygen, I don't know about. But then, again, with regard to body loss, body fluid loss, blood, your old radiator system doesn't work very well when you don't have the commutation of the oxygen you can suck in with the air. But if you also lose core temperature, you're really in trouble. And even though you have the other two taken care of, and maybe they aren't even an issue, if you lose core temperature, your body drops fast. And most people grossly underestimate what a thermal casualty situation is and how it develops. It's the same with summer, with sunstroke, heat stroke, all these issues. Well, cold is no different. Neither are merciful. Both you can suffer quickly, and it can be deep, debilitating injury or death. Always remember that. So we're going to prevent that because team leaders are going to be paying attention to their personnel. We're not going to get anybody lost in the shuffle. We're going to use the buddy system. If you want to be in charge and you're that supposed officer, then you're supposed to be paying attention to what's going on and making sure that your NCOs are doing their job, and you're overlapping with them to keep an eye on your people. Prior proper planning prevents piss poor for performance. It's that simple. The B principle. Use it. Okay, now, enough on that. Cold weather. You should have sense. This is Michigan, but a lot of people don't. So we're going to keep harping on it, and it's part of our instruction and course material when we're discussing cold weather operations or field operations in general. Another thing, real quick, nobody's getting much in the way of replacement ammo. I mean, there's a few bits and tidbits in there, but the bigger companies especially just don't seem to be able to resupply in any good numbers, and probably with the limited back orders they're allowing, a lot of the stuff is being absorbed even before it gets to the posting on the web page or in the store. This is happening a lot. They had a lot of people discussing this. They've gone to so-and-so's, and, well, they had some, and it came in, but it was already, tagged. AIM surplus seems to be pretty good. Of course, they are eating stuff up. People are buying stuff as quick as they're finding it. But right now, for the moment, over at AIM surplus, they have Norma, 45 auto, 230 grain FMJ, 50 round box, not 250 round box, 50 round box, $24.95. That's $25 a box for 50 rounds. It's Norma. Norma's expensive, and that's really not expensive for Norma right now. I'm surprised to see it. I hadn't really noticed or seen Norma jumping out at me anywhere, okay? But this is what they've been tapping into over at AIM right now. They do have PPU, and that's coming in on a regular basis. More on that in a second. But Norma, 45 auto, 230 grain, FMJ, 50-round box, $24.95. Can I say $25? But it is highest grade ammunition. This is very consistent. Norma has made a name for itself with regard to quality and consistency and performance for decades. When I first started shooting, I was always looking for the Norma boxes, even if it was just the brass. They used to be that wood grain. For those of you who haven't seen it, you go to a gun show, you'll probably run into it once in a while. The guy might have some on the shelf. Look at the old case. Guys, we saw that, and somebody had a good price on it. It was gone. And Norma used to be the only place you could go for the older military cartridges you couldn't find anywhere else, including stuff that now they don't even build. Pre-1900 smokeless powder big bore stuff in Europe and American calibers that were unique. That was what Norma did. And they made a name for themselves, and they made a market for themselves, okay? Well, they also do standard ammunition. So over at AIM Surplus, 45 ACP, 230 grain standard ball, but very, 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 very precise ball, okay? Now, real quick list. What have they got over there otherwise? Well, they still have some 30-06 PPU. They got Korean 30 carbine. Everybody has some of that. They did get in some 308 7.62 by 51 NATO ammunition, 150 grain soft point, $15 a box. Private Partisan, also PPU, by the way. PPU 303 British, PPU 10 millimeter. I mentioned this. For a lot of you guys looking for 10, most everybody is sucking vapors. Nobody has any. Over at AIM Surplus, they do. So if you're listening and you're one of our 10 millimeter aficionados, that's the bicycle you like to ride. That's the motorcycle you want to roll on the road with. Well, they've got it, and it's $20 a box for 50 rounds of 170 grain FPJ. Then there's also some 7.62 by 54R, 7 millimeter Mauser, the 45 I mentioned, 7.65 Argentine, 25-06, more 30-06 Steel Wolf, Federal American 6.5 Creedmoor for $17.95. There is some Creedmoor hanging around, but not much. So if you got a Creedmoor, 123 grain, open tip, hollow point, $17.95 a box for 20 rounds. 7 millimeter Remington mag, I'm amazed that's still there. I am, really. That is the one. Of all the ammunition on this page, I'm surprised that stuff is not vaporized. And it's interesting because normally it does, even from AIM. When they get it in, you're in competition to see how long it takes. So they may have gotten a pile of it this time. They may have grabbed everything they get their hands on, because they have a market and they have a customer base that does all the big calibers. And I've carefully watched that for years. And if you see it, you grab it, because if you do need it, like the 300 Win Mag, normally they carry that. They had it for about a day, and it's gone again. So I wasn't surprised. In fact, I knew it wasn't even worth mentioning, because it turned out almost as quick as I saw it. It went off the page. Same with the 223 5.56 ammo that was over there at AIM Surplus, the same way. That was PPU, and the price was reasonable. Okay, it wasn't the best price. Well, it's a good price. The best price I've seen recently for any Boxer Prime non-corrosive heat annealed case at about 51 cents a round.
Mark.
Somebody else thought it was good. They bought it all. Okay. Anyway, we got a caller. Who do we have?
Yep, John from Maine. Quick update on that Norma 32 ACP. That came in a red box that said range ammo. It didn't come in the wood grain typical Norma box.
Right, I noticed that. They changed boxes, or the 45's the same way. Go ahead.
Yep, but the specs on it look about right. 152 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, just under 1,000 foot per second. So 71 grain, I think, projectile. But yeah. That was a heck of a deal. People better be grabbing this stuff. I agree. And another quick comment. I sent you an email about 10 minutes ago. Last week you were wondering where this mask-wearing, quarantining BS has come from. I have a long article I picked off a blog for you to peruse through and see if it's got any pertinent information. Just sent it out maybe 10 minutes ago.
That's very good.
Just give you a heads up on that.
Thank you.
Okay, listen, you have a good day, sir. Talk to
How's
you
the
later.
weather there, by the way, before you go anywhere? We're always asking for weather reports from the points of the compass. We're here in Michigan. We're getting cloudy. It looks like it wants to rain.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot that. It's actually going to clear up here. We're going to get. It was warm and muggy today. Cold front's going to come through tomorrow. It's going to get nice and dry, and it's going to. Let's see. Today temperatures were in the low 80s, high 70s most of the day. Muggy, yuck.
That's where we are.
Walking a husky, and she didn't really care to stay out too long today, but tomorrow and yeah.
I think we got our shift before you did. You got your shift coming supposedly tomorrow. That means it'll probably be here tonight. But we were having the same thing. We had warm, muggy temperatures, medium warm. And then all of a sudden, it's back down to, and over at, by the way, real quick, Menards. If you have a Menards, they have alcohol that came in. There is no alcohol on the shelves anywhere. And this is listed as, 80% ethanol. Well, that's better than the stuff that's at the Dollar Tree. That's only 50. And it's hand sanitizer. Wait a minute, it's alcohol is what it is. So just a heads up, if you have a Maynard's over in your direction, I don't know if you do, but it might be useful. Yeah,
Maynard's doesn't come this far east.
I know it's Menards, but I call it Maynard's.
Menards, yeah.
Over there at Maynard's.
Yeah. Although
so keep an eye out. There may be more of this stuff popping up.
Ohio.
I'm sorry, repeat?
I said I've been in Menards when we were visiting relatives up in Ohio.
Oh, okay, yes.
So, yeah.
And they're not bad, except that they've done the face mask, communism thing, so I won't go in. We've actually saved money that way, I guess, because I usually grab all the saley stuff. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just into that. I pay attention math-wise, and sometimes I should, sometimes I shouldn't. But now I don't. So whatever we buy is absolute minimum and out of there. So pretty cool.
Well, on a side note, BLM supposedly is going to be in Portland, Maine this weekend, having a little rally at 4 o'clock, 2 blocks away from the police station.
A peaceful rally, don't you know? It'll be peaceful.
Yeah. Peaceful.
Yeah.
But the last one they arrested a number of people, and the DA decided not to prosecute them. So, what's their incentive not to do naughty things? Nothing.
Exactly.
A bullet maybe, but that's it.
Small arms fire will deal with most of it. And again, this is just leading up towards a shipwreck anyway with November, because one way or another, these characters had a mouthy tantrum the last time. Before when we had before the election and during the election. Well, now it's gonna be worse, and they've already been shown that they can be as recklessly violent as they choose to, because they've let them just carry on for how long. So the only thing I'm expecting is where they figure they don't have control of, for instance, the voting booths, they'll probably do violence there this time. Remember last time the Black Panther types and a bunch of the Kill All the White People types showed up on the East Coast at the polling stations, and they didn't drag them away with billy clubs. You and I do that just to go out there and stand there with a sign. The cops are on you like white on rice. These characters were threatening people, and they did nothing about it. So the next time around, this time, I can picture where this is going real quick.
I'd like to see it happen, because I'm not going to mail in. I'm going to actually go in person and see it. But
I know. Did they do that in your state too, where they sent everybody you can do the absentee ballot thing?
Oh, yes.
So you are just as communized as we are, and as far as I'm concerned, first of all, it is true. I don't trust the mail on anything anyway, for the most part. Whether it gets there, it gets there. If not, oh well. But talking about the election, with voter fraud and the level of voter fraud we have, BS.
The thing I'm curious about, if Trump wins again, are all of these actors and celebrities that said they're going to leave the country 4 years ago actually going to finally leave this time?
Well, they said they meant it this time. They didn't mean it the last time. They said it, but they didn't mean it last time. But this time they said it and they meant it. Of course, some of them might be running for the door for prosecution purposes, too, as we know. So.
Yeah. Well, you got another caller on the line. I'm going to hop off and listen on air there. Take care.
Very good. Thank you. And
again, for everybody out there, a quick reminder, Portland, of course, is Portland burning? Well, of course, sir, Portland is always burning nowadays. We can expect this to continue to escalate, and there's no reason for it not to. And for all the rumors about Trump's doing this or Trump did that, no, there's been nothing publicly done. And the military is heading to, the National Guard is heading to Wisconsin. Yeah, well, from states so far away, why are they doing that? They're not deploying units from their area of operation. Example, the Guard units and the reserve units are part of CONUS, okay, Continental United States. Guys, do you know what the Army regions are for the United States? There are Army regions. We have Army group regions already subdivided. If you're mobilizing in an area, why are you taking people from a contrary part of the United States when you have M&P, military and police, and PW, prisoner of war units, MP, PWs, that are already in your area of operation?
This way I don't have to shoot my family.
Yeah, see, that's the part I would say, that was what I was going to say, would be the math on this one, that in communist Russia, when the communists were mobilizing, they would always use, like the Eastern forces on the West, they would use the Western forces on the stands, or send them way out to Siberia, send them out beyond Siberia, actually. And this was the norm, so like you said, that way you're not shooting your family members or anybody. I don't know these people, so shooting them is not a big deal. And that's the feel I get from this, because all of these areas, let me point out, Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. Okay, what state is the riot taking place in? Does everybody understand that Fort McCoy, Wisconsin is the 5th Army Intelligence Center? It's also the MPPW command training facilities for, and has been for quite some time, for National Guard, Reserve, and active military as needed. Fort McCoy, Wisconsin. They didn't shut it down. In fact, it's mostly a big butt traditional older pattern military base. They preserved everything and have maintained it quite well. I was quite amazed the quality. Now, whether or not that's gone on the toilet and something else has happened, we'll find out. But it makes no sense that all of a sudden we're mobilizing National Guard from Texas to go up to Wisconsin, and we've got Michigan units going from Michigan to Wisconsin. Now, regionally, although Wisconsin isn't really Region 5, it's close. It's closer than Texas is, across the water, so to speak, straight across the water, distance-wise. But otherwise, pay attention. There's some interesting politics going on with these quote-unquote mobilizations, too. So, and reliability may be part of the issue. So, but, of course, they're going to tell you that's not, but reliability may be part of the issue, especially when shooting your neighbors, okay, or at least shooting, close county members, maybe. Let's see, next, very quickly here, MRE, somebody had a question. I had several of them here because, people that are, new or coming up to speed on what's going on about MREs. First of all, there are very few of any real military MREs that aren't, first of all, a god-awful price, and second of all, not that critical with all the other things you can access off the shelf. Right now, especially with the situation the way it is, and because of budget, money, that's the most important situation everybody has to deal with. Well, how much do you have in the way of reserves to spend? There are some decent buys on emergency rations. If you look around, plus or minus, it's a roller coaster on the price, but availability is more important than anything. Can you actually get the product? In theory, most of the places do have the product in stock. But as far as MREs go, when you're looking at $7, $8, $10 a piece, guys, if you go over to the Dollar Tree, you can take and buy in cans and retort pouches for at least a third the price, if not save even more, but, and build the same basic MRE up, or at least something comparable, and you'll get more food for the dollar. You won't just get the 11-ounce or 12-ounce retort pouch main course. Sometimes you're lucky, and those might be even 12s and 13s. But instead, you're looking at a 15-ounce can of food. You're looking at more food for less. And in fact, if you look at even like the dessert items, when you look at what they charge for a dessert component in the MRE, You can buy an awful lot of sweet things off the shelf for $1 a can or less, depending upon where you shop and then when you cherry pick. So the most important is figure out what you want. Go to the Dollar Trees. That would be your best bet, and look to see what they've got, especially an American canning company, name brands, because they do show up there. And also their off brands, because they're American, but their off brands are just not the top of the line as far as the title goes, but the product's serviceable enough. And in fact, usually the ones that are a little less expensive are basically the same stuff that's in your MRE pouch. Now, normally I wouldn't say this because we've gotten some really good buys on MREs. Those deals are last year. I mean, literally now last year in the taillights. Or the beginning of spring. There was one last hiccup that we did the beginning of this year where I told everybody, hey guys, let's do this. And we bought them out, and those sources, those wholesalers that I've dealt with for quite some time, it's been impossible for them to replace any of their inventory, period. And these are companies that supply to almost all the other companies that even Sportsman's Guide. That particular wholesaler even provides a lot of stuff to Sportsman's Guide. Well, they don't have that. Now, again, all these different companies that I mention all the time, they will have, it's a roller coaster. Maybe they get a hiccup here, maybe they get a pile of stuff there. However, they're on the list for the product. Well, that varies. It determines, whether or not they're going to get anything to offer you. So be patient. I would look for alternatives. And again, canned goods are still just as good a choice as anything else right now. And if you go to Dollar Tree, like I said, main courses, they've got chili, they've got corned beef. That's in the smaller soup can, which is only, 12 ounces. They have a number of other name brand Hormel products that can pop in every once in a while. And, chicken and dumplings, stuff like that. All those are main course flat items, not real spicy, usually done middle of the road so they please everybody. And if you want to make them hotter, go get another $1's worth of hot sauce. Congratulations, put that in your backpack, away you go. And of course, like the other day, I just bought, like half a gallon of hot sauce for $1.89. So that bottle would not go in your backpack, but it still will probably be used very quickly if you're trying to spice things up in the field. Another thing we mentioned is that cold weather thing. Cayenne pepper and all of the capsium oil products, all the hot sauce, hot spicy items out there that you can pour on your food, do help to generate calories internally. You do know that, right? It's an organic. So what's really cool is when you're in the field looking at winter operations, wouldn't be a bad idea for you to turn right around and add that pepper sauce or that, hot sauce, whatever flavoring you want, habanero, whatever you can stand, and throw that in there for that reason, if nothing else. It helps to warm you up from the inside, not just the outside. And that's one of those old field tricks. And why do everybody carry hot sauce in the military? Well, it's also to kind of change the flavor of whatever you're eating. Personally, ain't nothing I found that isn't edible in MREs or C rations. Some people would turn their nose up at stuff. Good. I would never try to, after a while, I learned not to convince them to eat what they got. I took what they didn't want. You know why? I let them carry more food for me. They carried it about the third or fourth day out. They carried it, then they didn't want it because they didn't like the flavor of what it was. I don't like that. Oh, I'll take it. Oh, well, okay, yeah, about hell with it. I'm not going to eat. It's like, yeah, right. Well, that doesn't last very long, so just a little heads up there. Then they're going to be pissing and moaning because they didn't have food, but they're the ones who chucked their food away. Anyway, I heard two voices or three. Go ahead, jump in there. Who's first?
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia.
Go ahead, Carl.
When I was in the Marine Corps, I would have those little tiny bottles of Tabasco sauce, and I would take a few drops of that on my tongue just to stay awake on fire watch.
Exactly. Well, oh, there we go. Oh, that kind of jerks you open there. Oh
yeah.
And it's funny that's true. You know what? South America, they make a pepper coffee. Think about that. It's like, well, that'll keep you awake. That's true. Whoa!
Clears the sinuses too.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of pepper they're using, but it's like, whoa! And it's got to be something that's quite unique because the peppers are, especially Latin America, peppers are in the middle of the cuisine. They are everywhere, and they are in everything. So why not? Pepper candy even, So that makes sense.
But what you were saying about the sauces, it reminded me of the book I read. It's by Thomas Plum Martin, and his I think Diary of a Revolutionary Soldier, something along those lines. But he on every single page he talks about how they were, starving. Always hungry during the War for Independence. And he served in the militia and with the Continental Army, both. And no matter where he was, or what unit he was in, and who his commander was, or where they were always underfed. And when they did have food, usually it was like just plain white rice and vinegar. That's what they had for Thanksgiving dinner one year, is white rice and vinegar. And they were always on the lookout for sauces, anything at all to flavor their food. They were always looking for sauces.
Well, that's one of the things to remember. You just brought up, vinegar. Guys, vinegar has got vitamin C in it. The Roman army, that was part of their ration pack, vinegar, brown vinegar especially. And that white vinegar or refined vinegar or distilled vinegar, like you're familiar with, isn't really in the menu for, not at that period of time. Maybe with alchemists, but not for the population. And vinegar in and of itself, that probably saved their lives. When you think about it, because of all the medicinal aspects, not the least of which is vitamin C and scurvy. If you weren't getting enough to eat, you weren't getting enough vitamin C. So just a heads up, that is something that, good thing you brought that up, because there are a lot of different ways you can acquire vitamin C. Potatoes have vitamin C. That's why the Irish weren't quite as bad off as you might think in some ways, at least food-wise. It was a good staple/foundation food for their cuisine. Doesn't mean it's all they ate, but it was, when the potato famine took place, it was a major hit for Ireland. Vinegar is one of those things that helps to compensate. There's a couple other things that does. If you have rice or if you have wheat, the Romans had wheat. Wheat was their foundational material. They sent them with raw wheat. Now, it was their job to figure out how to make it work. So they would soak it. They would make like a gruel with it. But one of the things that's been pointed out is by hook or crook, learning or deep ritual, the vinegar helped to break down the wheat so that you get all the sustenance out of it without it going through the system and getting pooped out the other end. And the vinegar helped to break down and also absorb. In the process, you got more minerals, you got more vitamins out of everything. And it was a food combination that really made the difference in terms of whether or not they lived or died or, starved in the field. So these are little things to remember. If anything and everything that is edible, and including with regard to, things like fluids, alcohol, needless to say, everybody's looking for. But vinegar is and should be a priority for consumption. In fact, in a way, if you didn't have anything else, a cap full of vinegar, notice I didn't say a cup, because you probably won't have that much. But if everybody got just a cap full of vinegar, that's going to help to save that much more in the way of suffering for the troops. Because vitamins, vitamin D, vitamin C, B vitamin category, all of that stuff that in the field, especially in cold weather operations, well, without it, you die. It's that simple. Or at least put it this way, your capacity to fight is reduced dramatically. Go ahead, Tom, jump in there, please.
What I do is I get extra condiments from like Taco Bell and Burger King and McDonald's and just put them in a separate bag and then put them in with my MRE things. And you'd be surprised just how much a little bit of that stuff will actually add flavor to food.
Right. Well, you get like the little soy sauce packs. You've got the Taco Bell sauce packs. You've got the Wendy's packs. All of those have different little, and even ketchup and mustard. If I carried those, yeah, salt and pepper. That's one thing I watch for because everybody has a tendency to waste those. You want to hang on to all of that. Save little medicine bottles or vitamin bottles. Vitamin bottles are especially good for doing two things. It keeps the stuff dry, obviously, and contained. And if anything happens where a package breaks down, the neat thing about the little vitamin bottles, like Little White or, the smaller ones, and bigger ones are fine too, is that they've got a good armor hull so you can't poke a hole in something, but if something breaks down, the juices or the fluids are contained inside the water bottle, inside the little vitamin bottle, because they're airtight, watertight. So just a little heads up on that one. Mark on the outside what it is, food stuff or food condiments or packets, something that's easy to identify so you know what it is. In fact, even in the dark, you can find it. One of the other advantages of doing that, hey, you've got Asian flavor one night, you've got, Mexican or spicy the next, and then you've got bland sauces like, horsey sauce, which still isn't bland, it's got horseradish, from Arby's, stuff like that.
Another thing I do is I get extra napkins and put them in there. You never know when you're going to need them.
Well, and if all else fails, like I said, toilet paper, take that roll of toilet paper, put it in your backpack. When you're done, don't throw away that cardboard tube. You'll wish you didn't when you're looking for the next piece of toilet paper. Oh, you thought you were going to not use that cardboard? Oh, you'll find out.
Kind of rough, but it works.
Yeah, anything. Yeah, because leaves are your last choice, only because you got to find the better leaves. Once you pick up a big handful of leaves, well, you got spiders, you got bugs, you could have anything in there. Oh, look.
Poison ivy, poison
oak. Those were poison ivy leaves. You didn't really pay that much attention. So everything and anything in the way of paper, one way or another, here's the thing. It's either going to be used for wiping your hind end, or it's going to be used to start fires. It's a fire starter.
Phone book.
Yeah, phone books are great. Well, yeah, a phone book, or Sears Roebucks if you want something to read. Remember that. Exactly. In fact, watch for phone books. I have newspaper. I've got the same way. I've just realized, I've been grabbing bundles of newspaper where they didn't distribute the stuff. They just threw it in the recycle bin. You know how hard it is to find stacks of newspaper right now in the recycle bins? And phone books are the same way. You think everybody's taken for granted. It's like I said for years, sci-fi movies always show you're in the future and the newspapers are going down the street and there's papers rolling in. It's like, papers from where? What newspaper? Where would you get that from? And again, phone books are going to be the same way. So when you have freebies and you can get more than one, the big thing is to put them into tins or put them into and watch for old bread tins. Not everybody likes those anymore if they're metal, but they were metal for a reason, so the mice couldn't get in. So if you're going to put a shiver shanty together outside of your house, a toilet outside your house, guys, you want metal all the way around for your toilet paper. And if you're going to save like for instance Sears Roebucks catalogs, there aren't any of those anymore. That kind of catalog. Grangers are like that. Old Granger catalogs, those would be good. Yeah, but because they're made of they're made of 10 weight. That's 10 weight paper. That's what the telephone books are made out of. Also, very tough to work. I was a folder operator. I've done printing. Trying to get 10 weight, you got to have certain machines, and not every company has them, which is why a lot of companies won't do them. It's the same grade or weight as newspaper, except newspaper is more friable. It's frangible, break down faster. But for wipe your butt paper, the phone books are great, but you need something to put them in. If you leave them in the shed, even if you hang them on a coat hanger, the coat hanger is your toilet paper dispenser. Always remember that. Watch for the better. I just got a bunch of these 2 days ago. They are the pant hangers. They're thicker and heavier, the ones that used to come from the dry cleaners. Those are perfect for deploying a telephone book as a toilet paper dispenser. Okay, you put the book in between on the hanger, okay, about the middle of the phone book. When you need a piece, you rip it off, but what you want is something that you can hang with, but you don't leave it out when you're going to abandon the area. If you do, when you come back, not even the spine will be left from the mice collecting the paper. You'll find the paper somewhere else. Okay, you'll find a pile of it. But if you leave it, either if you just put it in boxes or leave it even in a coffee can with a plastic lid, when you come back, that roll of toilet paper next season will be a nice fluffy nest, maybe with 1 or 2 dead mice who died in the middle of the winter or something. And it won't be toilet paper anymore. At least, you might be desperate enough. I mean, it'll have little mouse droppings and pee in it, mouse pee, but better than leaves? Probably not. So
one other source, Mark, for paper, and learned this as a Cub Scout, the paper on the outside of the canned goods.
Oh, yeah.
Because we did run into there is no toilet paper except for the older kids, and they wouldn't give us any. So we adapted and overcame.
Yeah, improvise, adapt, overcome. And by the way, the pecan is still a pecan. We know what's in there, canned peas, but we'll memorize them by color probably. In fact,
the other thing you were mentioning before about how the Demis went twisted sideways over the last election. You know, Hillary never did publicly concede that. There's rumor that she called Trumpsky on the phone and conceded that way, but there was no public concession. Therefore, all the hyper-left pantywad people didn't have the wind taken out of their sails. They just kind of moved right along for the next 4 years.
Another thing about that is, remember, they also didn't denounce any of the activity by the belligerents that were attacking people. Always remember that, guys. Just like you see right now, and when things get worse, because they will, they're not going to make any effort to try and correct anybody about their, boo-boo-ness. In fact, they'll smile and just, watch from a distance and be snugly and happy about what's going on. So just heads up, that is true. And I don't think it's going to be worse this time, no matter what. By the way, Biden won't even will barely remember whether or not there's an election going on anyway. He is the absolute epitome of a leftist meat puppet in the worst form, guys. And right in your face, so all of you can understand what we've been talking about for years. Anyway, I hear the music. We're going to take a break here. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire is on the run.
And we're on the march both day and night.
Stay focused. Remember, don't throw away those phone books, but can them up. Make sure that they're secured. And the old cookie tins are great for that. There's bunches of them at the resale stores. In fact, they're throwing them out. They're getting so much stuff because there's so few a number of resale stores that are actually open, especially here in our area. So, guys, you check with them before they chuck them. You grab them, then fill them up with the material, put them off to the side. If they're in the tins, they can go anywhere because the mouselets aren't going to get to them, are they? So they can be outside in the garage or whatever safely. Anyway, that's why you canned them. We're going to be back in a few minutes. Second hour of the Intel Report coming up. It's Thursday. And for all you guys at the different facilities, good afternoon. We'll be back.
The sons of liberty. Pay the price they're asking, boys. Always pay the tyrant's fee. Never give up the struggle, boys. Fight for the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. Stand for the rights of man, boys. Stand against all tyranny. Hang the lance of freedom, boys. High on the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty. It will grow as we grow, boys. It will be as strong as we. We must cling to our faith, boys. Faith in the liberty tree. It's a tall old tree and a strong old tree. And we are the sons, yes, we are the sons of liberty.
We all need to prepare ourselves. You might have the food, water, gold, and silver, but ask yourself, are you truly prepared? That's why you need to visit MaineMilitary.com. MaineMilitary.com carries everything you need. Gas masks, fire starter kits, high-capacity magazines, chemical suits, military surplus items, and much more. Do you own a firearm? MaineMilitary.com has a large selection of pistols and rifles suited for your needs. Are your local stores sold out of ammunition? Call or visit them today for prices on hard-to-find ammo and bulk ammo orders. You don't need to worry about having a military surplus store in your area because MaineMilitary.com is the only store you'll ever need, all from the comfort of your computer. Visit them online today at MaineMilitary.com. That's Maine, like the state, military.com.
Liberty's Guardian, Guns and Ammunition, a family-owned business located in the heart of Ohio's hunting country. Let us help you find the right shotgun or rifle for you. Or if you're looking for a pistol or concealed carry, we have a nice selection of compact and subcompact pistols for that too. Check out our website at www.libertiesguardian.com. That website again is www.libertiesguardian.com. Go to the website and check out our selection today.
Join Mark and Don for Weapons Wednesday, where you'll learn how to use everything from your bare hands to your average AR-15.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
Sure.
The 45 long slide.
Yep.
With laser sighting.
You betcha.
The Uzi 9mm.
Yes, sir.
Phased plasma rifle in a 40-watt range.
What are you, crazy?
Wrong.
Okay, they'll talk about that too. So whatever question you have about whatever weapon you have, call Mark and Don on Weapons Wednesday. And remember, your mind is your first best weapon.
I had a dream the other night that, well, I didn't understand. A figure walked in through the mist with a flintlock in his hand. His clothes were torn and dirty as he stood there by my bed. He took off his three-cornered hat, and speaking low to me, he said, "We fought a revolution to secure our liberty. We wrote the Constitution as a shield from tyranny. For future generations, this legacy we gave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. The freedoms we secured for you, we hoped you'd always keep. But tyrants labored endlessly while your parents were asleep. Your freedom's gone, your courage lost. You're no more than a slave. In this, the land of the free and home of the brave. You buy permits to travel and permits to own a gun, permits to start a business or to build a place for one. On land that you believe you own, you pay a yearly rent, although you have no voice in saying how the money's spent. Your children must attend a school that doesn't educate, and your Christian values can't be taught according to the state. You read about the current news in a regulated press, and you pay a tax you do not owe to please the IRS. Your money is no longer made of silver nor of gold. You trade your wealth for paper, so your life can be controlled. You pay for crimes that make our nation turn from God and shame. You've taken Satan's number. You've traded in your name. You've given government control to those who do you harm, so they could burn down churches and seize the family farm and keep our country deep in debt, put men of God in jail, harass your fellow countrymen while corrupted courts prevail. Your public servants don't uphold the solemn oaths they've sworn, and your daughters visit doctors so their children won't be born. Your leaders send artillery and guns to foreign shores and send your sons to slaughter fighting other people's wars. Can you regain the freedoms for which we fought and died? Or don't you have the courage or the faith to stand with pride? And are there no more values for which you'll fight to save? Or do you wish your children to live in fear and be a slave? O sons of the Republic, arise, take a stand, defend the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. Preserve our great republic and each God-given right. And pray to God to keep the torch of freedom burning bright. As I awoke, he'd vanished in the mist from whence he came. His words were true. We are not free, but we have ourselves to blame. For even now as tyrants trample each God-given right, we only watch and tremble, too afraid to stand and fight. If he stood by your bedside in a dream while you were asleep and wondered what remains of the freedoms he'd fought to keep, what would be your answer if he called out from the grave? Is this still the land of the free and home of the brave?
And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second hour of the afternoon intelligence report. I'm Mark Kornke. One day closer to victory for all of our brothers and sisters, both on and behind the lines, in occupied territories, Southwest, East, Northeast, and Central. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to us on Libertytreeradio.4mg.com, IndianaFreedomTalkRadio.com in memoriam, and again, we always remember Spike. And we are on Liberty Tree Radio on YouTube via live stream right now, even as I speak. So that's another way for you to hook up quick, along with AM and FM micro stations, CB base stations, and UltraNet Hallmark and Golden Spike Technologies east and west of the Mississippi, along with Alaska. Good afternoon to all of our friends out there in lower 49, including the great state of Jefferson, along with CONUS, the outlying two states, the outlying territories, and the clock. It is 6:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is Thursday, the other T-Day. Nobody takes Thursday off because they want to take Friday off. Well, unless you want a 4-day weekend, some people do. So maybe they do get that extra vacation day, but Thursday, everybody shows up to work. It's kind of like the other Friday for some people. Of course, you might also work a 4-day work week, and then Thursday is your Friday. How do you like that one? I worked at several places like that as pickup jobs, and you never worked 4 days a week. You always worked the 5th day, Friday, and then you also worked the weekend, and then you worked your butt off to the point where everybody went exhausted and got tired of what they were doing real fast. Just heads up on that one. Anyway, today's date, it is the 3rd of September. It is the 12th year of open Fabian Socialist and Soviet Socialist occupation of America with a K. You can pick your flavor of communism with the right, the Republicrats and the Democrats. You got Stalinism, Trotskyites and Leninites. So, like Congolian floor products made for communism. He's a Stalinite. You look better in a sweater made of Stalinite. Yuck. Anyway, could be people hair from the gulags. It is 2020 Old Earth calendar, 2020 year of conflict, year of betrayal. Thank you, guys. When we talk on the air, you jog my memory of something, and it's a good thing I did. So for one of our friends or a few of our friends listening, if you want red, green, blue dot sites, look up the Axion, AXEON, Optic Solutions, 3XRDS, red, green, blue dot site. I can get something for a very, very good price from that wholesaler right now. Axion, AXEON. They're red, blue, and green dot. Actually, red, green, blue. That's how they're listed. And again, write this down and go look at the price on these things. Okay, no more help. I got a 4-pod keyboard operator who just has to keep jumping on the keyboards. Axion, Optic Solutions, 3XRDS, red, green, blue dot site. Give me a heads up. What do you find? What's the price that you find? What's the best price you can find on those out and about retail right now? And there's a reason, because what I suspect...
what was that item number? X?
Oh, it's Axion Optics Solution, 3XRDS.
3XRDS, thank you.
Yeah, red, green, blue dot site. We're going to jump on these. There are actually 1,500 of them available, but that won't last long when the jobbers... This is a jobber. When the other companies like Sportsman's Guide see these, guys, they'll vaporize the whole batch in one leap. So we're going to have to jump on this tonight. But I'm giving our friends a heads up, because if we do want them, this is a better price than anywhere else on the planet you're going to get these for, at least right now. I screwed up on a bunch of the optic sites last year, in that I did get some, but I didn't get any. I didn't get the quantity I should have gotten, because they were even cheaper than this price. But that's typical for the China sport stuff with the way it's going right now. So, I mean, everything's going up in cost.
First one I found was $39.99.
So about $40.
Yes, you could say $40.
Yeah, I'll say $40. Yeah, I am. $39.99, $40. So again, yeah, we're talking a much better price. And
woohoo!
Yeah.
Woohoo! I need 2.
Yeah, you might want 4 for the price. If you know what I mean. You really, really can afford them.
Okay. Okay.
See how I work? Yeah, I am. And
I know how you work.
We might even offer these on the air. Also, I'll have to double check to make sure I can access them. Yeah, go right ahead, Fluffy.
Those sites last year, I think those were around $15 or $16, if I'm not mistaken, and I did buy me one.
Excellent. And it's the Axion. Okay.
I don't remember if they were Axion last year, but it was an excellent site, and you urged to be able to take advantage of it, and I was, for an exception, actually smart enough to do it.
Right. The average price on this particular one, the one that we got the last time, it's another company. I have a box of them, and they actually are going on. What I use those for is they're mated up to the thermal sights that we have. So when we pull the thermal sight off to throw a quick sight on the same weapon, that's what I did that's why I didn't sell them or move them to anybody else, because they're mated up so that one thermal and one of these, it's the other, I can't think of the name of the other model, the company, and I kicked myself in the butt because when the same company had these before, there was an even less expensive model that's available, and they work just fine. I've got them on 2 or 3 different pieces of equipment, and mostly for demonstration. So just a little heads up, they are a nice little, here's the thing, these things are not very big. Everybody, if you're familiar, these have zero magnification. These are a pure red dot system. And you can put these on pretty much anything. I guess, I don't know about putting them on a pistol, but, Don talked about that for years. It kind of defeats the purpose, and then you get the snot beat out of them on a handgun. Except maybe a broom handle Mauser. We never talked about that. The broom handle Mauser would have been kind of fun. But otherwise, length 1.25 inches, packaging is plain box, construction aluminum alloy, objective diameter 30 millimeter, FOV 68 feet at 100 yards, battery is a 1XCR 2032, just one of them, and magnification is 1, well, 1-on-1, 0 basically, tube diameter 30 millimeter, so these are very compact and out of the way. 1.25 inches, you do the math. But for a quick point sight to put on a rifle for what they are, yep, they work just fine. Now, a lot of people are also lining these up with other equipment. We will remind everybody of that, too. You've seen some of these where these have been in battery with other technology, and that can be done also. So you can actually heads up, quick shoot, and, switch out and actually go to greater range and optics very quickly. But for another thing I saw somebody do, and I haven't seen very much of this, so I don't think it really caught on, but you have a 45-degree side station mount, and you have the more sophisticated optics in center, and then you have one of these mounted on at the 45 station, and you tilt the weapon sideways. You've seen this. There's the iron sights that are built the same way for that purpose. So that's another thing that can be done with this. That would work. And I don't want to even leave this because I don't want to lose it, which is always the problem. I got to be careful with that. I'm not going to be difficult because I deal with these people all the time. Anyway, just a heads up, we may have some optics available. We'll let everybody know, and then we'll go from there and see what we can do. And next, let's see. Other things on the horizon. Here in Michigan, a bunch of people have been asking, what the hell is wrong with your governor? Well, we got a crazy, faggoty / queers a $3 bill, quadriplegic homosexual Eskimo for governor. That's what's happened. And there was a movement to talk about recalling. There's the petitions were signed for that. I don't know where that just seems to have fiddled or disappeared. Political correctness, or people fearful that they might be punished for being involved. So the yellow streak, the cowardly streak, kind of popped out real quick with a lot of people. Because of that, we're stuck until the next election with what you got, or if we get into small arms exchange, somebody will probably decide that they've had enough of Greta Bruce Jenner, and then we'll probably have a management change. Until then, Greta Bruce Jenner is going to be sitting right where it is, and that's really not going to change, guys. So I highly recommend that if you can, you need to be looking at dealing with the problem accordingly at the local level and the county level, which is what we've been doing here in Michigan, and you guys should be doing it the same in whatever state where you have one of these Soviets in charge of the state or in the big metropolitan areas, like we've got whatever the hell that is, Beetlejuice's, the shrunken head, Beetlejuice, that's what she reminds me of, the shrunken head from Beetlejuice, or the shrunken head from Indiana Jones, as we were joking about last night, we were kind of laughing about. But the Fruit Loop that they've got in charge isn't in charge because it's that bright. It's being run by the Jewish mob that runs the north side of Chicago. It's that simple. That's why that creature's there. That's why the creatures are doing what they're doing, and that's why the whole creature government of Chicago is in a shambles the way that it is. They're where they want it to be. Okay, and that's
why that creature is on tape, Mark, saying that they need to fill all the positions in the local government with New World Order supporters.
Right. Yeah, these characters are blatant. Well, and again, they're blatant in that respect because, remember, the other Council on Foreign Relations headquarters, guys, is right there in Chicago. That's the other home base. So don't forget that. These critters are entrenched in Chicago. Now, they've also gutted it for all practical purposes, but that's not, again, not my circus, not my monkeys. Avoid that area like the plague and minimally deal with any of the metropolitan areas that are Sovietized like this. Don't leave your money with them. Take money from them, but don't leave your money there. That makes no sense. All you're doing is supporting an enemy who truly, truly, truly hates you. So you need to be acting accordingly and dealing with the threat appropriately now, not waiting just till later. But with regard to any of these areas, compression, pull back in, find out where your friendly territories and real estate are, and that's where you operate, and that's who you do business with. Virginia, basically, when we had the step-by-step, Second Amendment resolution process, Michigan has had the same thing. Many of your states out there, why do you think they did what they did? The resistance was very open and was outside the bounds of any of their control factors. Trump wasn't leading the way on that. Trump was pushing the quiet gun confiscation from behind the scenes and right in your face. So when all of a sudden the people are all getting together and are resisting, and it's at the township and the county level, well, that's just the reverse of their big plan for how they were going to play everybody. And I think y'all better keep that in mind with especially what we're seeing here right now. So we have a lot of work to do, and we need to make sure that we keep everybody in touch or in contact with each other accordingly to deal with the threat that is presently before us. It hasn't gone away. The anti-gun thing is just waiting in the wings. Personally, especially with what we've seen with the way they banged the gong and have flat-out barefaced lied, especially where you can watch on-time video of the shooting in Wisconsin. The whole angle of this is to push for the gun grab. And, of course, there was discussion about, this escalation and blah, blah, blah. Guys, I told you before, it's inevitable that this was going to happen. That at some point, because, the cops aren't going to do anything. Well, the cops really aren't there for you anyway. You just finally discovered that, or a lot of people did. So we've had a lesser incident where 3 characters are shot, and just all 3 of them happen to be Jewish. I'm amazed about that one. Wow. So 3 people are shot, and they all happen to be from the same, quote-unquote, minority ethnic group, religiously, of course, which is fascinating, but now they're considered supposed to be a race, fill in the blank, however that works. Okay, well, all 3 of these leftists are all from the same tribe. Okay, number one. They all had the same agenda: do violence to that homie fry / oh, wait a minute, that white guy that was there. Yeah, they are going after the blacks. And in the process, they were trying to very, very much go lethal on him. In fact, there's a term that you'll hear them using now. They're going to go cranium on him. What does that mean? They had, like I said before, and this term is popping up left and right in the last week or two. They're going to go cranium on you. What does that mean, guys? What do you think that implies? You're not supposed to figure that out because it's a catchphrase, man. But what does that imply? They're going to go cranium on you. Well, wait a minute. The skateboard is the symbol for the commies, right? If you pay attention, they're all using the skateboard as if they've been coached. They all use it the exact same way. When they flip the board over, they're using the crossbar for the axles as the grip handle, and then they are trying to slam it into the side of your head to bust your head open like a melon to kill you. Okay, it's that simple. Well, guess what? The one tried real hard, was trying to split his head open, was trying to kill the kid. The guy turned around, the kid popped 3 rounds on him. The more I watch that video, I'm going to tell you something. I've said this many times before. There's a lot of military people that they can't work together with people. They just can't. It's not the PTS or any of that BS. They just never could work with people when they're out and away from or are being barked at by a sergeant. Interestingly enough, that kid had enough discipline and wherewithal through ignorance, whatever. Usually some people say it's because he's stupid and didn't know what's happening. He didn't realize the risk. Well, he actually kept his cool and stayed focused the whole time, and I wouldn't have a problem with that 17-year-old standing next to me. You do realize
I'd be very pleased to have him with me.
With proper guidance instead of being separated and running off on his own. And in fact, when we watch, let's back up. I'm opening another can of worms here and another sidebar. Guys, have anybody watched the original attack on the business they were trying to burn down? Okay, what bothers me is this. That young man was by himself. He wasn't by himself originally. But my question is, where the hell did the rest of those guys go that were standing there? I said before about this, if you remember, you can go back through the archives. We were discussing this, watching this step by step. Somehow he got peeled away. But when I watched the Molotov attack that he dodged, my problem is I don't see anybody else standing near him. I mean, he's in front of the business where you're supposed to be. But you see none of the other characters are all puffed up and had to get in front of the cameras. You can't find any of them. Did anybody notice that? All the ones that had the real spiffy, cool gear, blah, 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 blah. And I've told you this, the real pretty ones, they disappear or they never show up. Well, guess what? When Kyle is in front of that building, I don't see anybody else running from Molotovs or dodging around. And that picture is pretty panoramic. So he stood his ground while apparently, I don't know where the hell the rest of that tribe went that were supposed to be standing with him. You figure that out. Go watch these videos again. Go back through and watch, because there's about 3 or 4 angles. So I watched, last night I watched them again just real quick, because somebody was commenting on something else had to do with, the other characters that should be charged that attacked him in the initial attack where he shot the guy and apparently popped him in the head. He may not have popped that guy in the head. There's still a question about that one, in that there was other fire going on, and in the proximity, it may have been that one of the leftists was trying to shoot the kid and messed up and got one of his own. Remember, there is no such thing as friendly fire. There is no such thing as friendly fire. No guns are friendly. Guns are dangerous. When the bullet leaves, it knows no friend. It has no ally. It is a ruthless, destructive device. Okay? So they probably popped one of their own people in the head. Of course, then remember, too, that if it was one of those things where they were developing a crisis, then somebody may have intentionally popped old Hugo in the head there to develop the problem.
Hey Morgan,
going back to this kid, you suggest he got peeled away somehow. No, you just need to read in depth more from the fellows he was with. They were really up against a large group of people defending those automobiles in that one building, and they were starting fires in all those garbage cans way down the street, and they sent him. He didn't get peeled away. He didn't get left behind by the studs in their fancy gear. He was given a directive, and he was man enough at 17 to go do it. He took fire extinguishers and went down to put those things out. And that, yes or no, that may be a failure to have not taken some kind of security, but I don't think they had the numbers to do that. It's just the way it worked out. Nobody bailed on him. Nobody left him.
Right, but you still have here's the thing. The team member knows you can't send a man by themselves in that situation. It's like diving. Okay, let's remember this. Okay, let's think of it this way. No matter what the situation is, if you're diving, you don't dive by yourself, if at all possible. I mean, unless it's an urgent thing. In this situation, if you have a man that's given a task like that, just like you said, remember this. This is why we're going to use this as a classroom. Remember this. You have to have another buddy with him. So you're absolutely right about that. Okay, he was given the task. The team leader has to remember that even if he does have a shortage of manpower, peeling off one man is creating a casualty. Always remember that you can't do that. It's sad because you might have 4 people. It's like, well, we're going to split up here. Yeah, but 2-man teams work really well. Cover me. Move out. I got you covered. Cover me. I'm moving out. Or cover your quadrant. They're moving up on you. Yeah, but pay attention. They're behind you.
He did get separated from his unit, Dad. In fact, what I'll do is I got 5 minutes here of a Tucker Carlson piece where he's talking to the kid's attorney, and the kid's attorney lays out the timeline. Do you want me to play that?
Oh, well, actually, I've seen it. Well, hold on here. Well, we're at the bottom of the hour. Well, let's do this. Because that'll make up our music break. Let's do that as a follow-up because they are discussing what happened, the overview. The reason I bring this up, and I don't want to get too far from it before we play, don't play that yet, Ed, just for a minute. One of the things to remember, it's like the guy that got shot in the arm. I don't care about the enemy. Hopefully he died. I wish he had died. It would have been better. He's a communist. I don't care about him. And he's kosher mafia, so he definitely is hardcore. What's interesting is, again, pointing out that, well, all the things that you got to remember before they happen to you happened to him. He supposedly had medical gear. Was his medical gear accessible? No. In fact, did he have immediate action gear? Because that's really what's critical. Any medical gear you can carry is good. If you got a backpack for doc, that's fine. But guess what? You still have to have available and at quick disposal all of the battery of basics, and that's why an IFAC and a small med pouch front, small med pouch rear with dressings is a priority. With regard to his situation and the kid being peeled off and by himself, we have to correct this. It's like diving. You don't dive by yourself. You have a buddy system, and you're constantly checking on each other. If one person is going to be involved in what is a diversionary task, another person must overwatch with weapon ready to go. In other words, you're really there for security, and yes, your fire prevention, which is one of the things they were there to do. They actually said so. They agreed that the guy's place, the other 2 guys' businesses had been burned down. The third one is what they were protecting. And the guy, asked for help. So everybody that, saw what was going on, knew the cops weren't going to be there to help them, knew that government was against them. And it's the communist pigs in all of our government and in our bureaucracy that do not care for the producers at all. In fact, they hate you. I've said this a million times. The non-producers hate you. And it's being demonstrated in all of these actions. So again,
I'm going to remind people of something too, which is something we've heard repeated constantly, is that this kid came from out of state to where he was. That has been proved to be a fallacy. They're going where his parents lived. He was not living with his parents.
Right, and the other thing about it is, again, it's where he worked. It's where he worked at. We know it's like anybody else. You like your community, you work in a community, you probably have an interest in it, which is what you're supposed to do if you're a man. And again, for everybody out there, that's his circus. Those are his monkeys. So he's in the right place at the right time doing what he's supposed to do. My problem is that there are millions of Americans. I don't know what the population in Kennesaw is. Probably about, 750,000, maybe 500,000, could be 250,000. That means there's more than enough swinging dinks there that they should have been stepping up to the plate and dealing with this problem. And the cowardice of the population is our biggest issue right now. And it's why my personal belief is, no, we don't go all the way across the country for a situation that the fire brigades there should be dealing with. We will have enough fire in our own backyard to deal with when this kicks off and as this kicks off.
Mark?
Now, we can send we can send representation, and I've agreed with that. But as long as we understand that only if we have representation locally, if the locals, if we have somebody invite us, we send a representation, but we don't send the whole army from Michigan to, say, Wisconsin. We've done that before, and it was a tremendous expense. And then in the long run, people did not perform as they should have once we committed that resource. I've been on this battlefield before. You send representation because that's symbolic, but you don't send your whole, every swinging dink you've got and strip your backyard, because that just isn't going to work for you. It's this issue that happened in the American War for Independence the same way. The regulars were not the only fighting force on the ground, and the states' militias fought in each of the states respectively, even as the war was going on with all the battles you write about. You read about that have been written about. We got another voice. Go ahead, jump in there.
Yeah, it's Mike. I was in a local coffee shop the other day, and a guy comes in. He's not from around here. It was the kind of coffee shop that sells knickknacks, a little bit of women's clothing and stuff. That's it. And boutique kind of thing. I mean, all you got to do is walk in the door. It takes you about 2 seconds to figure out they don't sell men's clothing. Okay. So he walks to the back, and he asks to see the owner. And so the guy comes out. He says, the owner. He goes, yeah. And then he says, do you sell any men's clothing? He says, no, we don't. You should go next door to Jim's. It's a sporting goods store. And, but they just sell clothing, not, weapons or anything. And so I just, looking at the way he looked, his age, just something was amiss. And so I go out to the truck to grab a cigarette, and apparently he just came out of the sports clothing store. And he goes dashing across the street. There's no traffic or anything. Then he dashes across the side street, slows down, and then he walks into the pharmacy. So apparently he was walking from north to south, going into different businesses. And I'm thinking, is this guy sizing the town up, a scout? And just going in business after business, and just maybe seeing and here's a town, I think they have 3 cops, but that's for the whole 24-hour schedule. And our county has, including the sheriff, about 7 men. That's it. And we are very rural. Would they hit a town that small, like 2,000 people?
Well, sure. They've actually, depending on where you are, I mean, in proximity to, say, a route for, quote-unquote, we don't want to call it invasion or activity, it's no different from the other locations we've covered, bottom of Ohio, Hillsdale, Michigan. Yeah, it's very likely. It's in fact, they've wanted to press that envelope, and what they need right now is actually a victory on the ground in that situation where everybody gets caught flat-footed, and they can pump up the rank and file with a demonstration where they get away with something. And so far,
there is a precedent being set, Dad, by the DA offices in these democratic states and cities, where the one that pardoned George Soros came out today saying that officers need to consider whether a looter needed the stolen goods before charging them. So as long as they needed it, whether it be for financial gain or for personal gain or for personal use, it's okay for them to steal because they needed it.
Another thing is, nearly 70%, I would say 65% of this town is elderly. Okay.
Makes it an optimal target. All right.
And there's, like I said, there's like 3 cops, sheriff's department's about another 7, and the nearest town's 20-some miles away, which actually has about 5,000 people.
Okay, well, I'll tell you right now, you've got somebody that's surveying the areas, would typically, like they did in Ferguson, we covered that, that's years ago now. I mean, really, that's in the taillights quite a ways back, guys. But remember what they did. They had a plan. They came in, and we played on the air. We were playing the actual police dispatch, and I listened to it for most of the night after we went off the air. And they literally had a systematic plan for going from business to business, like in combat columns. They would use one vehicle. They stole vehicles. They came in, ran them through the front door of the shop. The tire store was the first one. And then they had anywhere from 40 to 60 vehicles that came in column and cleaned the place out as they burned it.
All you got to do is read some of these peaceful protesters' riot signs, protest signs, like the one big banner that I've been showing everybody. It's right there, holding it on the Capitol steps. These are the quote-unquote peaceful protesters that have speakers up there on the steps. They looted our future, so loot theirs. And that's quote unquote peaceful protesters. They're promoting looting, Anyway, Dad, we have got about 20 minutes left. If we don't play this piece, we're going to move so far away from the subject, people might wonder why we're playing it.
Go ahead. We'll put up. So for everybody out there, again, this was Tucker Carlson. I think it was last night. But anyway.
With the lawyer representing the kid, Kyle.
Very good. Everybody mute up, and Ed's going to go ahead and play this through.
Rittenhouse has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder for shootings that took place in Kenosha, Wisconsin recently. There's a lot of confusion about what exactly happened. But in at least 2 of the shootings, video shows Rittenhouse running away, being attacked, and then firing. What does this add up to? Well, some on the left don't want to know. Antifa, according to accounts online, is trying to figure out what cell Rittenhouse is being held in, presumably so they can kill him. So what's the state of the case? What will Rittenhouse's lawyers argue when it does go to court? To find out, we're speaking tonight to John Pierce. He's representing Kyle Rittenhouse. He's from the firm Pierce Bainbridge, and we're happy to have him on tonight. Mr. Pierce, thanks so much for coming on. So,
hi, Tucker. Thank you so much for having us to get the true story out of what happened in Kenosha that night.
Well, I'm eager to know, because this is one of those stories that obviously has intense partisan interest, and there's a lot of confusing video. But what is, broadly speaking, the defense that you will mount on behalf of Kyle Rittenhouse?
This is 100% self-defense, Tucker. Kyle, he's a good kid. He's a lifeguard. Kenosha was burning down. Actually, when he got done with work that day, he went to the high school with some friends to try to remove some graffiti. After that, they got a call from a local business person who owns 3 businesses in downtown Kenosha. 2 of those 3 businesses had been burnt to the ground, and this business owner simply wanted to desperately protect what was left of his life's work, so he asked for help. Kyle and his friends decided that nobody was doing anything to protect that community, and they decided that they would answer that call and help to protect that business. Kyle actually took a first aid kit downtown because he was concerned that there would be wounded protesters downtown. And in fact, he took a firearm because Kenosha had become a war zone. And any sensible person would take that. And him and his friends stayed on the premises and protected that property. And then some events started to unfold whereby he was trying to treat medically wounded protesters, and ultimately he got trapped out on the street, out in the open, because the riot police had moved the line far enough down that they were between himself and that premises.
So I have read that he brought a firearm as a juvenile, 17, across state lines. A lot of people.
That is incorrect.
That's incorrect. Tell us where the gun came from.
That is incorrect. That is incorrect. That firearm never crossed state lines. That is a legal firearm in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin is an open carry state. That charge is incorrect as a matter of state law. As a 17-year-old, he was legally entitled to have that firearm in his possession. Moreover, we are going to be arguing that the Second Amendment and Title 10, Section 246 of the United States Code renders that charge and any ordinance that charge will be based on blatantly unconstitutional under these circumstances.
Right. Well, that's really a tertiary charge anyway, because there are other. Let me ask you about the first shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum. Sure. The second two, one man was shot in the arm, the other was shot in the midsection and died. Both of them clearly, and it's obvious on video, attacked Rittenhouse. But the first shooting, was Rittenhouse fired upon before he fired? Did he believe he was fired upon? What were the circumstances of that shooting?
Absolutely. The New York Times has a report and has analyzed this very closely. There was a shot that was fired as Kyle was retreating, actually, from a mob that had become enraged that he was trying to put out fires that the arsons had set, and because he was trying to protect property. The mob became enraged. They began screaming that Kyle needed to be killed, and they were going to kill him. They started relentlessly hunting him as prey as he ran down the street attempting to retreat. As he ran out of room to retreat, a shot was fired from behind him. The New York Times has clearly shown that. Shortly after that, the individual, Mr. Rosenbaum, who was leading the attack on him, set upon him immediately, began to assault him from behind, attempted to take his weapon, take his firearm, and Kyle, when he turned, he instantaneously had no choice but to defend himself by firing because he was in imminent danger of serious bodily harm or death.
So that was the first shooting. So that happened.
That's right.
He called a friend on the phone, said, I think I've killed someone. And then he begins to run. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, let me clarify. Let me clarify that. So actually, Kyle actually attempted to stop and to check on the individual who had been shot. He did make a call to his friend. He said to his friend that he had shot someone. He immediately had to retreat from that area because the mob that was the rioters that were chasing him, who had witnessed this, immediately called him out for the shooting, which of course wasn't self-defense, but they called him out for the shooting. They began saying that he needs to be craniumed, that he essentially needed to be killed. So he began retreating back down the street. He began running back down the police line to try to get to safety. Again, the mob relentlessly and viciously pursued him, and he was struck as he was running from behind by one of the rioters. He tripped and fell to the ground, and then one of the rioters was right over him with a Glock. The other one was attempting, and both of them were attempting to disarm him, to take his AR-15. He was successful in being able to fight that off, and he had no choice but to then immediately defend himself. He was at fear of serious bodily harm or death. He fired and disarmed the individual who had the Glock by hitting him in the arm. He shot and killed the other person who was attacking him. And I got to tell you, one thing, if you really think about this, Tucker, in this war zone, in this chaos that was occurring in a city in America, in the middle of Wisconsin, Kyle, the only individuals that Kyle shot were the three individuals that were attacking him and putting him at risk of serious bodily harm or death. This is a 17-year-old kid. This is amazing.
So let me ask you this, and I think that's a fair point. He didn't shoot indiscriminately, and I'm taking your word for it in the first one because I haven't seen the video, but in the second two, I have seen the video. One guy attacked him. The other guy was pointing a gun at him. Here's my question. He shot that man in the arm, and the man backed off. That man survived. That man has not been charged. He came at a 17-year-old with a gun. Why has he not been charged?
So here's a question that I have, Tucker. Where are the charges for aggravated assault against Kyle Rittenhouse? Where are the charges for arson in our cities? Where are the charges for rioting? Where are the charges for crossing state lines? And where are the charges against the people who are funding this activity and who are financing it? And why is Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old lifeguard who is attempting to protect the businesses in his community and attempting to help wounded protesters and was protecting his own life while Kenosha was burning, why is he the one sitting in jail tonight as forces within this country sickeningly attempt to find a way to bring harm to him while he's in detention.
It is sickening. Mr. Pierce, thanks for coming on tonight and giving your side of this, which has not been heard. I haven't heard it anyway, so I appreciate it.
Thank you for letting us tell the truth here, Tucker. I really appreciate it.
And again, very good. Thank you, Edward. And that was Tucker Carlson. Just give credit where credit's due. Fox Broadcasting. We rebroadcast that as a soundbite. And so everybody has that now as part of the archive in another location, separate from where it already was, which in many cases is made to disappear from places like YouTube and Facebook. So we know how that works. I heard a voice. Who do we have?
This is Fluffy. I just wanted to tell about something I saw on the Communist News Network a couple 3 days ago, I think it was, 2 or 3 days ago. There were a couple of people talking about this and how disappointed, how intensely disappointed they were sounding that it seemed like there were witnesses and video of the fact that the kid appeared to be acting in self-defense, that he had a real chance of getting off.
Oh, man, more than a real chance. The only way they could do that is if they stack it. You know, they'd have to stack it, which, well, by the way, prostituters will. This is the thing. We don't have much justice in the court system anymore. Maybe in litigation you win, but otherwise I wouldn't trust the courts with him. You know, his safety. Go ahead.
But they were so disappointed that there seemed to be video that supported the self-defense, and they couldn't really argue with clear video. But,
right, and not only that, but there's more than one angle. I mean, that's the one thing. They were actually thinking they were going to look, he shot those guys. Yep, it's a good thing he did, or he'd be dead right now. In fact, it's obvious they keep, mentioning, or it keeps being brought up that they really wanted to kill him. They just didn't really get away with it. That's all there is to it. So. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about. We might not even hear about him. Had they killed him, you wouldn't have heard anything about it other than a little sound blurb. You know, if they beat him down, they'd show you the pictures of him finally beating him down and busting his head open, and then the whole pack of them running up and kicking him and stomping on him, like we've seen how many times. I think that's the first thing.
Entirely too many times.
Yeah, and so it's like to me, it's a good thing that it happened. But the prostituters are jumping right in there, which tells you about the political horrors you're dealing with. And it's like the lawyer said, that's who's speaking there, is like, well, where are the charges against these other characters? Well, they're government employees. They work for the bureaucracy. No, I'm not talking about the prosecutor. I'm talking about the rioters. Now, this gets back to something where people are mentioning more and more, who's financing this? Who's paying for all this? And I will point out again that good old Donald Trump and all the rest of these skanks, these fools that are out there that say, well, I just don't know what we can do. BS. Guys, they track all of your money transactions. In fact, you do recall, we've covered this for 30 years. Since FinCEN has been in place, and you weren't supposed to know about it, and I'm mentioning it right now, and I mentioned it in America in Peril repeatedly, FinCEN has a system whereby they track anything over a set dollar amount that is arbitrarily established by FinCEN and Homeland Security. So let me ask you something. They're watching your bank account, and if you do $500 worth of something, they got to fill out forms every day at the bank that you're not supposed to know about. You do know that, right? Now, they've probably made it computer entry favorable, but they used to actually have to go through mechanical forms, and maybe they still do, because there's not that much money floating around in the country anymore anyway, with the economy the way it is. But the bottom line is that FinCEN was watching all of your accounts. So how are all these foreigners, these Jewish foreigners, these enemies of America, how are they moving money across the border or across the state lines, and nobody in FinCEN seems to know where it is? And it's being run digitally and electronically. But all of a sudden, all of these government agencies don't have a brain. Seem to forget how to do their job. Can't remember where the buttons are. That means that the Republicans and the Democrats are working together to promote a bigger gun-grabbing, gun-confiscating police state. That's what's going on. Because I don't even have to go to, well, why aren't the police? Well, the police would be the ones enforcing it. But if you want to put the kibosh to this, then it would be choke off the money. And FinCEN was put there supposedly, they're lying, supposedly, to stop stuff like this from happening so that organized crimes and crimes against America could not take place. Terrorist organizations would be stopped from moving their money, I guess, unless it's a government-approved terrorist organization, and then they send money to rioters to burn down your streets. FinCEN. Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. FinCEN. Part of Homeland Security, which is only applying itself desperately only as necessary. It becomes so obvious that people get pissed enough that they might have to step forward, but then again they don't. On the other hand, they're great for attacking American patriots, and they really hate American super patriots, and they really hate returning veterans, and they really hate, and in fact they declare you as all the enemies of the state, but that same bunch of trash aren't going through and cleaning house of all of these creatures internationally that are financing the burning of your country, people. Go ahead, caller. Jump in there. We're almost to the top.
Hey, this is Carl in Virginia. I'm having a hard time understanding why this kid even turned himself into police. Why not just, go underground? And even if everybody knows what his name is, I mean, what do you have to gain by being in their system?
At this point in time, you're in the worst place you could be if the war starts, because the cops will throw you to the lions. They'll throw you to the jackals behind the wire. Right now, he has to be in protective custody. If he is not, or if anything happened to him, my attitude would be, I hope they kill every last bastard that's in the lockup that was running it, because they know beyond the shadow of a doubt, if the prosecutors don't have him under protective custody and something happens to him, I hope somebody, I would think that family would decide that they needed to practice the art of Kenley, okay? The feud would be very much alive, because there is no doubt, you got to figure that they're pumping everything up that they can to stir the pot so that the Black Lives Matter / the radical Muslim types that are in the lockup, or any of the rest, and matter the leftists, but they'll be riding to a certain degree with the blacks. They're trying to get that kid killed. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And 17 years old, here's the thing, he has no business being locked up. Period. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we're watching. If they watch what happened, they may have to go through the motions to do a study, but beyond that, I don't care who it be, black, white, pink, purple, being viciously attacked like that, you would be, any other common sense time, that person would be, at the most, would be monitored. And that's not the case here, but that's because this whole thing is, all of this is politicized in what is the precursor to a war on American soil. My attitude with most of you guys going in, if you're going to go to an area, like I said, you carry a black hoodie. Why? In anything, if anything develops, you throw a smoke. I throw a smoke left, you throw a smoke right. You shoot whatever you got to shoot. You duck down, roll left, roll right, stuff's burning, people are screaming, all kinds of thrashing and drama going on. You throw a black hoodie on. Whatever you're wearing, you make sure you throw a black hoodie on. Eliminate what you had, cover up what you do. In fact, if you're really smart, you jump up and go, he's over there! He's over there! The guy that shot those guys, he's over there! And you even fire at something over there. Seriously. He's over there. The frothing, crazy town drama queens, the whole damn herd would be running down the street wherever you point them. Be creative, people. Remember, you're dealing with Fruit Loops. So treat the Fruit Loops accordingly. Anyway, there's a dozen solutions. This is 2020 hindsight with regard to this situation. Again, guys, you've got to take care of your own. You can't be divided when it comes to an operation. You have to have a buddy system in place. Teamwork. We've talked about this a million times. Teamwork. No one person goes to do a task. Runners would be the only situation, and there was no reason for any couriers there. Otherwise, Bob goes with Fred, Jim goes with Jack, and you guys are joined together because no matter what, you're going to keep each other alive. You all need to be thinking the same way right now in preparation for what's coming. You've got to practice it. You need to do it. I've had a lot of people asking about that very issue. God bless our republic.
Death to the New World Order.
We shall prevail, ladies and gentlemen. The empire is on the run.
We're on the march both day and night.
Hoorah. For all you guys out there, all points of the compass. Again, organize, arm, equip, and train as militia. Prepare to deal with the problem at hand, guys. Stay focused. Dar, give me a call right away. God bless. Bye-bye.
Hoorah.